This is the Greg Peterson experience.
He was like a god walking amongst mere mortals. He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
On VSiN, the sports betting network.
The GPE rolling along here on VSiN. I'm Jeff Parles. Happy to be with you on a Sunday night here in Vegas. Now Monday on the East Coast and in the Central Time Zone. Welcome to Monday for you folks. Now joining us, by the way, Greg is back tomorrow. Don't worry about that. Don't worry. He's got to work a lot of days in a row, so we'll give him a break for at least this day. Now joining us, you see him over at DraftKings, betting analyst for them. It is Tanner Kern joining us right now. He's a jack of all trades, can talk pretty much everything. And Tanner, I just want to say this right out of the gate. Jason Kahn, the producer of this show, informed me you're on a big-time hot streak on the network here when you've come on the last few times. So the pressure is on to avoid the Kahn jinx here.
Hey, let's see if I can keep it going. I've been pretty good in my last few picks on here, but again, you're only as good as your next bet. So all that matters is tonight's picks.
Hey, look, people are in the win now business here. Even though again, win over time. It's better thing. Be a consistent winner. Like Tanner has so far in these spots here. All right, Tanner, let's start in the NBA. Let's start in game one of the West Series before we look at the series as a whole. The Nuggets are up to 5.5-point favorites. And look, we saw this in the first two series Denver played. The opposing team getting adjusted to the elevation, mile high as we know, and Denver looks the part of a number one seed. And Tanner, you and I are in agreement here. I think this is a smash spot for the Denver Nuggets in game one.
So the Lakers haven't been the greatest game one team. LeBron usually uses this as a feel-out game, and he's not his same self that we saw later in series. He shot 71% in the closeout game against the Golden State Warriors, but early in the series, we just simply didn't see it, and I have a prop later that's going to support that. But I love the Nuggets here at -5.5. Nikola Jokic has been fantastic down the stretch. Jamal Murray has been getting better and better as every game goes on in this series, and I just really like what Denver has been able to do throughout the postseason at home. I think this is going to be an interesting series overall. Don't count out the Lakers throughout the entire series. But when you look at game one, it's all about the Nuggets here. Again, Nikola Jokic down low in the paint. He's been able to score. He's been able to pass. The one thing that I need to see from him, though, is to be the aggressor. LeBron's going to be a little more hesitant, I think, in this game, and that's going to open up some more opportunities for Jokic. He needs to take advantage of it. Can't have the moment be too big for him because we know the postseason has not necessarily gone their way over the past few seasons. I think this year could be slightly different, but I do like them in game one at -5.5.
Tanner, let's go to some player props here for game one, and let's start with the two-time MVP, Nikola Jokic here. You are looking at a rebound prop for Jokic.
So I'm going to play the under of 13.5 rebounds for Jokic. Again, he's been fantastic. He's been able to score, pass, and shoot. But in this spot, I want to play the under on the rebounds just because the Lakers are going to be competitive inside. You have LeBron James. You have Anthony Davis. Those are two guys that can show up and neutralize Nikola Jokic. He's gone under this total in the final three games of the last series. And again, the Lakers are a much more physical team than what Denver saw in the last round against Phoenix Suns. That Suns team was pretty much tired the entire series, and they just didn't have a guy that can compete down low with Jokic. And he took more of a scoring role, I think, late in that series, and that was the reason that his rebounding total dipped a little bit there. So I'm going to play the under of 13.5 here. I think this is going to be a profitable bet.
And then, Tanner, going on LeBron, like you said, you are right. Usually feel out games in game one for LeBron, and you're looking at his point total under here in game one against Denver.
So he's gone under this margin in the first game of the Grizzlies series and the Warriors series. There's other players who can score on this team, and LeBron usually lets them score in game one, uses that feel-out game, and he's going to get better and better as the series goes on. But in game one, under 25.5 points is a great play. I see him being around 22 points tonight. AD and D'Angelo Russell, I think, will be doing the majority of the scoring in the spot. LeBron wants to get his teammates going, and that's beneficial for an under on his point prop.
Tanner, let's look at this series as a whole, and I brought this up earlier in the show. I like the Lakers to win this series, but I don't like them in game one like you don't. This feels like the perfect opportunity waited out let those plus 130s go by the wayside and take the Lakers after game one. And you know what? If they win game one, so be it. I will deal with my choice on that to let that plus money go by pre-series here, Tanner.
Yeah, if they win game one, I'm not super worried about not getting a future in for this series just because it's only plus 130. I can find that in any MLB game on any given night, right? So I'm not necessarily upset if I don't get in that plus 130 bet, but there's a higher upside here if you wait until game two for the Lakers to bet them to win the series, because if they lose game one, those odds are going to get even longer to win the series overall. So they're hovering right around even money, as you said, plus 130. If they lose game one, I could easily see them getting up to 2-1 odds here, and then that is the time to hammer them. Again, LeBron and this team have been one of the best in basketball when he's on the floor with AD and D'Angelo Russell at the same time. The Nuggets haven't had great postseason success, and I do think overall the Lakers are just a slightly better team. It might take them a while to get going, and I do see the series going 7 games. So there's plenty of time to wait for that future bet to get it in, and I'm going to do that after the Lakers hopefully lose game one, because I am playing the Nuggets minus the points there.
Tanner, let's go to the Eastern Conference. Before we look at the Heat and the Celtics, just your reaction to what we saw today in Game 7 with the Celtics just thumping the Sixers in the second half and advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals yet again.
So I've always been a huge Jason Tatum fan, but I was even more impressed by Jason Tatum over the last 5 quarters of basketball. You go back to game 6, look what he did. He was really, really bad for the majority of that game, and he showed up in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. And I think that's a testimony to how great he is as a player. It's tough to be great in the fourth quarter when you were absolutely terrible for 3 quarters, and he was able to do that. And then after the game, he said, humbly, I'm one of the best players in the world. And he showed why throughout this entire game today, game 7. 51 points, the most in game 7 history in the NBA. You just can't say enough about him, and I do think he's going to carry that momentum moving forward. And this Celtics team honestly should roll right to the NBA Finals. The Heat just aren't that good. Knowing the Celtics, they will allow the Heat to hang around for a little bit, but find a way to figure it out down the stretch.
Let's go to game 1. Celtics are 8-point favorites now against Miami. Of course, Celtics on a little less rest than the Heat, but you are not deterred here on the C's.
So 8 points is a big spread. But again, in the NBA, these big spreads can go very, very quickly. There's been times where we've seen 6, 7, 8-point spreads that the games have been close in the final minutes, and then foul shots has got you over the hump there playing the favorite. So I'm going to be on the Celtics at -8 here. TD Garden should be rocking, and I just simply can't bet against a team that's facing Kevin Love, Max Strus, and Gabe Vincent, and then Kyle Lowry being the closer off the bench for this team. Like, you have Jimmy Butler, obviously. You have Bam Adebayo. You have really good players on this Heat team, but overall, they don't measure up well in a lot of analytics, and I would call them a team of destiny with Jimmy Butler this season. But the Celtics have guys that can change games too, one being Jason Tatum, as we saw tonight. Overall, the Celtics team is just much better, and I do think the Heat are going to be competitive. But down the stretch in this game, I like Boston to get it going. Now, the Celtics have a tendency to say, hey, we don't feel like playing basketball some nights of the week, which makes betting an 8-point spread sometimes a little difficult with them. I still like it in this spot. Again, I just can't get behind the Miami Heat. You look at what they did in the first round, beat the Bucks, but the Bucks didn't have Giannis for the majority of that series, right? And then when he came back, he wasn't super healthy. They were already on their heels. And then they beat a bad Knicks team. Julius Randle should be ashamed of himself. RJ Barrett didn't do anything in that series, right? So the Heat really haven't had that much of a challenge getting to this point. I just think the Celtics are going to absolutely come out and roll them and prove why they are the best team in the NBA.
Tanner, you got a pair of player props in this game 1. Let's start with your guy Jason Tatum first.
So Jason Tatum is not always the scoring Jason Tatum, but I want to give him even more credit and praise than I've already given him on this show. When he doesn't score, he stays locked into the game through rebounds and assists. And I do like him to go over 4.5 assists in this game. I'm not going to say he's going to score 29.5 points again, just because I think we're going to see a little bit of a regression to the mean after the 51-point performance tonight. But I do like the over 4.5 assists there. Also, I like him to go over 9.5 rebounds. He's averaging over 10 rebounds in 3 games this season against Miami. Also doing 30 points per game there too. So he's been really efficient against the Heat. I think you're going to see him involved in more ways than just scoring the basketball.
And then Jaylen Brown, if Tatum's not going to score, it's probably going to be Jaylen Brown, right?
Yeah, so it's hard to pick who's going to pop off for the Boston Celtics, right? Is it going to be a Jason Tatum night? Is it going to be a Jaylen Brown night? You never really do know, but you kind of got a good feeling here. Again, Jason Tatum dropping 51. We're not going to see that same performance again in game one. He's probably going to save it for later in the series. And Jaylen Brown has defined consistency for the majority of the playoffs, right? Even on a night that he doesn't score much, where he drops 18 points, he's still pretty efficient from the field. He's knocking down his shots. And when I bet on a player prop for points, I want a guy who's going to make shots consistently. And that's exactly what Jaylen Brown's been able to do. He's went over this in 2 of his past 3 games. And then in 3 games against Miami, Jeff, this season, he's averaging 30.3 points per game. So he's showing up against the Heat. Obviously, he likes playing against Miami, and there's defensive holes on that team where he can score. So it's going to be Jaylen Brown night in game 1, and then I'll probably transition my point props to Jason Tatum throughout the remainder of the series.
Tanner, stick around. We have a lot to get to in baseball. We have some NFL futures of yours as well. So stick around as we continue on with Tanner Kern. Of course, you can find his work over at DraftKings, on the tweets at Tanner Kern _ where you can find him. And look, I just want to add one quick thing on something that finished up tonight. We still don't have a series price in the West final in hockey because we are awaiting the winner of Dallas and Seattle tomorrow night. But right now, VGK, of course, advancing with the 5-2 win earlier in the night in Edmonton. More with Tanner Kern coming up next here on the GPE. In for Greg Peterson here on the GPE tonight. Tanner Kern of DraftKings, betting analyst for DK, with us right now. We're going to shift over to baseball. And Tanner, let's start with the Dodgers and the Twins. Again, these interleague matchups, everyone plays everyone this year. In LA, late game, last game on the schedule for Monday. Pablo Lopez and Noah Syndergaard, the pitching matchup here. You are looking at the total of 8.5.
Yeah, so I love the over of 8.5 in this spot. Let's start with the Dodgers. Noah Syndergaard's going to be on the mound, 1-3 with a 6.12 ERA and a 1.42 WHIP. The days of Noah Syndergaard being Thor and being the guy that can take the ball and go shove, not saying they're over, but they're few and far in between. So 32 innings for him, 41 hits allowed, and 5 home runs. I will give him some credit. He has limited the walks, but does leave a lot of breaking balls hanging, and that results in hard hit balls. Pablo Lopez is going to be on the mound for the Twins here. He's been pretty good, 2-2, 3.47 ERA, WHIP right around 1. The walks have been an issue for him at times, but overall he's been decent. However, when you look at this Los Angeles offense right now, the way they're playing has been sensational. 68 homers, they got 308 hits on the season, and 220 runs. It's pretty good in Major League Baseball right now. On the Twins side, they have not been anemic on offense. They haven't been great, but they do have some bats in the lineup that can do something. They scored 191 runs here. Love the over in the spot. I do think the Dodgers are going to be able to get to Lopez. And I think the Twins can have a field day off Syndergaard. So I don't want to play a money line here. I think the over of 8.5 is a very fair bet.
It's not the same Thor anymore, that's for sure. And Pablo Lopez, again, benefiting so far this year, at least to me. Weaker competition in the American League Central as opposed to where he was in the past few years. Let's go to Baltimore next. The Angels continue or head to the East Coast to take on Baltimore. It's Ohtani Day on the mound against Baltimore's young stud to be at some point, Grayson Rodriguez. You're getting a pretty reasonable price in Ohtani here, only -130 on the road.
Yeah, stud to be at some point is a great term to describe Grayson Rodriguez. I think he's going to be really good in the future. But right now, I just can't take him over Shohei Ohtani. Very fair price at -130 for the Los Angeles Angels here. And the reason for that is we don't know if Los Angeles' offense is going to show up consistently. Ohtani has been great this season, but he is 4-1. So it's possible to beat the Angels with him on the mound. I still go back to the opening game of the season against the Oakland Athletics when Ohtani was fantastic, fan 10 batters, and they still lost the game. Obviously picked up a no decision because he barely gave up a hit in that one. But the Angels are still beatable with him on the mound. With that being said, I just don't see it happening in this game. Ohtani, 2.74 ERA, WHIP under 1, 46 innings, 22 hits allowed, barely any homers, doesn't walk a lot of guys. And then Grayson Rodriguez hasn't been the prospect that we expect him to be necessarily. I mean, it's hard to get called up and do something special, but this is not the spot to bet on the Orioles here. 5 ERA, 1.54 WHIP. He's shown signs of greatness. He's shown signs of being a rookie, and I'm going to trust the hot hand here, and that's Shohei Ohtani on the bump in the Los Angeles Angels.
Again, a pretty good price, all things considered. You don't see this very often with Ohtani. Again, even though Baltimore has been awesome this year, minus 130 on Shohei. We'll keep it in the Beltway. The Mets going for a series win, a rare series win at that for them, if they've really played some poor baseball over the last few weeks. It's Patrick Corbin Day for the Nats. It's never usually a good thing. Corbin against Peterson here. Mets minus 155. Run line, you're getting plus money laying the 1.5 with the Mets if you want it, Tanner.
If you don't mind laying the juice on the money line, I recommend that because I just can't trust the Mets here. But I'm going to take them on the run line because this is a prime run line spot. Despite their bad record, they are a better team than the Washington Nationals, and they're on the road. So that guarantees them 9 at-bats, makes it a higher likelihood that they're going to be able to win by 2 runs in this spot. So if you don't mind laying the juice on the money line, go for it at minus 160. I'm going to try to take that plus money and take the run line here. David Peterson has not been good for the Mets, and he's my biggest concern in betting on New York here. 7.6 ERA, 1.7 WHIP. Gives up homers, doesn't have great strikeout ability all the time. He leaves a lot of balls hanging. But Patrick Corbin has been the king of overs. He's been the king of betting against him to win money. That's just what he does. 4.87 ERA, 1.42 WHIP. Those numbers have been pretty stable over the past few years of his career. So fading Patrick Corbin has been very profitable. The Mets need to step up offensively. They're not getting it done every single game. Obviously, Pete Alonso on track to hit 40 home runs, but you don't have that same production out of the rest of the lineup here. The Washington Nationals, though, they can't hit with the Mets in any way whatsoever. Only 25 home runs compared to New York at 41. Again, prime run line spot. Take the chance here and hope New York can just stay hot.
Mets finally scored some runs in the second game on Sunday. Again, their offense has really been poor, to put it politely, over the last few weeks. Let's go to San Diego. We got Brad Keller and Michael Wacha on the mound. Royals at Padres. Total of 9 in this one, Tanner.
So I'm going to be on the under here, and it's mainly because the offenses haven't been super consistent here, and just Kansas City is not the best hitting team in the world by any means. Brad Keller on the bump for the Royals, 4.31 ERA and a 1.76 WHIP. Right off there, you might be saying, hey, take the over, take the over. But there are some things that he does well. He limits home runs. Only 3 homers allowed in 39 innings on the mound this season. And the way the Padres have won games this year is by hitting the long ball. So that's a benefit for the under. Michael Wacha, I don't know if he's the same Michael Wacha we saw in Boston last year. He was the ace in Boston, and I don't know if that says as much about Michael Wacha as it just about the state of the Red Sox organization, but he was very good last year. We haven't seen the same success translate in San Diego yet, but still a reputable arm. 4.8 ERA, 1.34 WHIP. Limits the home runs as well. So there's the reason I'm going with the under. You got 2 guys that can limit homers on the bump. And honestly, a 9-run total can get hit, but has less likelihood of getting hit if balls are not leaving the yard here. 161 runs for the Padres, actually 173 runs for the Royals. So they've been able to score even more runs this season. Neither team has shined on offense. You got 2 guys that limit the home runs. I think it feels right to take the under in the kickoff of the series.
Tanner, let's go to San Francisco. The Giants and the Phillies. Bailey Falter, Alex Wood, your pitching matchup. Basically a coin flip here. Giants, the slightest of favorites at minus 115.
So when I look at this game, I love the Giants on the money line here, and it's mainly because of the pitching matchup. Bailey Falter for the Philadelphia Phillies has not won once this season. I know we can't look at wins when it comes to pitchers. It's a tough stat because it relies on the offense, but he's 0-6 with a 5.75 ERA. So obviously the Phillies are not getting the job done when he is on the mound. Bryce Harper has seemed to electrify this lineup a little bit. They're starting to win games a little more consistently, but I don't trust the Philadelphia Phillies yet. They haven't shown me enough wins in a consistent manner for me to trust them here. 1.39 WHIP for Falter again. 6 homers in 36 innings, 8 walks. Been decent in that category, but doesn't have elite strikeout ability. And going against Alex Wood, my favorite quality about Alex Wood is how he keeps the ball down in the zone. If he leaves it up, he can get banged because he does hang his pitches occasionally, but he's been keeping it down great. And he hasn't allowed a home run this year in 11 innings on the mound. Still getting used to being back on a big league mound, but Wood has been pretty good. 2.45 ERA, again, 11 hits in 11 innings. The walks can be a concern with him, but still getting a strikeout in per inning there. He's a guy that has the ability to shut down this Philadelphia Phillies offense. Giants haven't been great at spraying the ball around the yard, but they do hit a lot of homers. And I think Falter is going to give them the chance to hit those homers, and they pick up the win at home.
Tanner, one macro question real quick before we hit a break here. The American League East right now has 4 playoff teams in it. Boston would be the 7th team in the playoffs, or the 4th wild card if it existed. Do you think we're going to end up with 4 AL East teams in the playoffs? I know we have eons to go here in the season.
I don't think we will. I think the war of attrition will slowly come down, and we'll probably get 2 wildcard teams and obviously a division winner there. But the Rays have been fantastic this season. They are the clear-cut favorite to win the division. And I still don't understand why the Baltimore Orioles are like plus 1,700 to win the AL East right now. It makes no sense to me considering they're in second place and they're only 4 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays. The New York Yankees are 8 games back, and they are picked 3rd to win the division right now. So I think you're going to get at least 2 teams. I think the Orioles are going to make a push. I think the Blue Jays are going to make a push. I can't trust the Yankees right now, and obviously the Red Sox have a lot of problems getting swept by the St. Louis Cardinals. But I think 2 is pretty safe with 1 division winner, so getting 3 in there.
Stick around, Tanner. We have one more segment with you. We're going to go to the NFL. Again, it's never too early to start looking at real NFL bets. The schedule is out. We're under 4 months away from opening night in Kansas City. Tanner Kern sticks around for one more segment here on the GPE. Happy to be with you on the GPE. I'm Jeff Parles, in for Greg. Tanner Kern of DraftKings still with us here. We have NFL to talk about with Tanner now. We covered the NBA. We covered baseball. So let's get to football now. And Tanner, we already have all the lines for every single game up on DraftKings already, all 272 games. You are starting off with game 1. Game 1, Detroit at Kansas City. Tanner, and I think you're the first person I've seen on this side of things with the Lions and the Chiefs.
Yeah, I give bookmakers a lot of credit over DraftKings first off for getting every single lineup right away. I mean, that was very impressive stuff, and it gets you excited about football season. I'm not saying I'm going to bet all of them right now, but it was great to see every lineup, and it gets us excited to start talking about the greatest sport in the United States of America and the world, I will say that. Lions plus 6.5 at the Chiefs. Actually, sharp money is coming in on the Lions in this spot here. They were at 7. The spread has since dropped down to 6.5 here, and I like it at either number because Lions were very good against the spread last season, 12-5 ATS, compared to the Chiefs, who just simply weren't that good. Now, granted, the Chiefs were getting a lot of big numbers, which is tougher to cover, but the Lions were solid, and they were competitive in keeping games close. Now, the thing Detroit's got to get better at this season, obviously, is finding ways to win games down the stretch. But when you look at the Lions, they're a tough matchup for the Chiefs because they can score. They don't have the best defense in the world, but the Chiefs also struggled on defense. And I know they made a lot of improvements in the back end to try to tighten things up there. But the Lions can put the ball in the end zone. I don't love how they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. They could have gotten him a lot later than they did, but they went with him. They have a stacked running back room. I think Jared Goff's legitimate. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be catching passes all over the field. And this Lions team is going to be a threat. I mean, this is the first time we've seen the Lions favored to win in the NFC North in a while. So don't expect them to come out and lay an egg in this spot. And also, it's week 1. And that's probably the best week for them to face the Chiefs because neither team will have a rhythm at that point. So Dan Campbell's going to have these boys fired up, and I love them at plus 6.5.
It's going to be interesting to see what Detroit ends up being. Remember, last year they were brutal early in the year. Of course, by the end of the year, they had made the playoffs. I thought they would have given the 49ers a better game than what the Seahawks ended up giving them. Again, 6.5 at the DraftKings Sportsbook on the Lions. You are getting even money on getting the 6.5 points on Detroit. All right, let's get to some awards. Actually, we're going to go to a division future first. Let's go to the NFC East. The Philadelphia Eagles still available at plus money. Tanner, I've been saying this for a few weeks. It's illogical to me that the Eagles were available as long as they've been at plus money to win the NFC East when they are so clearly better than everyone else.
They are much better than everyone else. I look at the NFC North right now, preparing for this, I was looking through the divisions, and The Lions, I believe, are plus 110 to win the NFC North. I would much rather bet on the Eagles at plus 110 to win the NFC East than the Lions to win the NFC North there. This Eagles team doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. They went to the Super Bowl last year because of an elite defense, and we saw the rise of Jalen Hurts throughout the year, and it was fun to watch. And he's only going to get better and better and better. I mean, after his payday, they asked him, what do you think of the contract? He's like, money's great, but championships are better, right? He wants to win a championship, and the way this team went out, I think it's going to light a fire under there, to get the job done here. They've improved tremendously on defense as well. I mean, this is the Philadelphia Bulldogs because they have every single Georgia star in their front seven. Jalen Carter, they got him obviously up there with a top pick. I don't know how he's going to progress in the sense of obviously they have the off the field issues and he does play a little lazy at times, but he's going to help them. And I think being around his Georgia boys is also going to help because they're going to push him to be better and better. And then they got Nolan Smith late in the round. Like, that guy was supposed to go in the top 10. He was definitely a top 15 pick in my mind, and they got him late. So the way they drafted was spectacular. Offensively, they have weapons. They have a franchise quarterback. And Dallas Cowboys, they're picked second right now. I have my doubts about Dak. I have my doubts about their running back room. I just have doubts around this whole Cowboys organization. So I'm going to be on the Eagles to win the NFC East at plus 110. This is a steal. Take it right now.
Tanner, let's go to the AFC East. Loaded division. The Patriots have a win total of 7.5. You're not scared by the fact that the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets all seem to be better on paper this year than New England.
Oh, they're 100 times better on paper, but over 7.5 wins I think is doable, and it's worth taking a risk on. When you look at the New England Patriots, it's not the defense. Last year, they were really good on defense. They were fourth in defensive passer rating from Cold Hard Football Facts, and they were third in defensive hog index. Those are proprietary stats, and they showed that the New England Patriots were efficient on defense. It really came down to the offense. They couldn't protect Mac Jones, and then when Mac Jones had time in the pocket, he couldn't find guys down the field. And I don't love how Bill Belichick handled the whole quarterback situation, putting Bailey Zappi in. Like, Mac Jones really did not deserve what he got last season. Now, there's been talks about his time in New England coming to an end, especially if things don't go his way this year. But he finally has that reputable offensive coordinator again. He doesn't have a defensive coordinator, a failed head coach who's never coached on the offensive side of the ball, leading him. He's got Bill O'Brien, who we know can get the job done there. And Mac needs a coach like Bill O'Brien. So the offense isn't as bad as you would think it is. They have him. They have Juju Smith-Schuster, and I'm not saying that's the greatest receiver number one in the world, but at least he's a name. At least they finally have a name. Ramondre Stevenson as well to run the football. This offense could be oriented on play action pass and pound the rock with him. I think it's worth taking the chance at 7.5. I think they can steal some games against the Jets. I'm not saying the Jets are going to be great. We don't know how Aaron Rodgers is going to play in New York. And then the Dolphins, they're one injury to Tua Tagovailoa away from being, an average club, and they can shut down those guys on defense. I think they can steal some wins.
Let's go to some award markets. Let's start with Coach of the Year. And Tanner, the Denver Broncos to me are the most befuddling team going into this year. If you told me they went 5-12 again, okay, I could see it. Russell Wilson's really washed. I could also see everything goes right. Sean Payton fixes Russell Wilson. They end up in the playoffs as a wild card team. And Sean Payton right now is 12-1 to win Coach of the Year. If Denver makes the playoffs, Sean Payton's going to have as good of a claim as anyone to get that award.
Yeah, so I was doing some research for a DraftKings video the other day, and one of the only 5'11" quarterbacks actually to ever win a Super Bowl in NFL history is Russell Wilson. He was good at one point. It's hard to believe. And I just want to clarify, when you're betting on the Coach of the Year market for Sean Payton, you are betting on Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson can step up and they lead this team to the playoffs, and he's a reason for it, Sean Payton wins Coach of the Year, because I think his task is tougher doing that than Dan Campbell in Detroit, who's favored to win the NFC North, or even Matt Eberflus, because we saw them progress throughout the season last year with Justin Fields. Like, these teams are on the rise. The Denver Broncos are at the bottom tier of the division right now with a new coach and a bad quarterback that they paid a ton of money. So I think it's a tougher job for Sean Payton to fix him and try to lead this team to the playoffs. And if he's able to do that, he does win Coach of the Year for plus 1,200.
Let's go to Offensive Rookie of the Year. Bijan Robinson, taken by the Falcons, currently 3-1 in the betting favorite right now, Tanner. Look, Atlanta, I didn't love the pick, but you can't deny the kid's talent.
Yeah, he's very talented. I mean, he's obviously one of the best running backs we're going to see in the NFL draft moving forward just because of how high he was selected and what he was able to do at Texas. The Falcons didn't have a terrible offensive line last year. It wasn't great, but they did rank 5th in offensive hog index, according to Cold Hard Football Facts. And I would rather put my trust in a running back than a quarterback. The two other guys that are in the mix for this award right now, at least, C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. Bryce Young, I can't get behind the 5'10" quarterback. I saw him taking snaps at Carolina's practice at a rookie minicamp, and I could barely see him. He looked like he was a damn water boy with a helmet on. And I'm sorry, I know he's a great quarterback, whatever, but he's too small. I can't get behind that, especially as a rookie. And then you got C.J. Stroud in there, and again, it's a quarterback. It's tougher to play quarterback as a rookie than as a running back. You know Bijan Robinson's going to get carries. It's very similar to what he did at Texas. Pound the rock, put your head down, and play football. And I would rather instill my trust in a running back that I know is going to get reps than the quarterback who single-handedly has the ball in his hand and can a lot more things can go worse from that position.
Tanner, we have about a minute left. Sell me on why you think Jamar Chase is going to be the offensive player of the year.
So he had 87 receptions last year, over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. He was tied for 6th in that mark. His numbers were much lower than Justin Jefferson, but he was still an efficient downfield receiver. It's another year with Joe Burrow. You have T. Higgins, you have Tyler Boyd. Those are guys that can distract defensive players and let Jamar Chase be open a little more. Justin Jefferson is the other player to watch here, but I think we're going to see more of a regression to the mean with his receiving stats. He had the world-class year last year, and eventually Kirk Cousins isn't going to be able to find him down the field. So I love the Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase connection. When you're going rookie or offensive player of the year, you don't want to pick a quarterback because that's going to go to the AP most valuable player, and I think Jamar Chase is a great fit to be the best receiver in the league next year.
He's Tanner Kern. Find him on the tweets at Tanner Kern _ find his work over at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Tanner, pleasure as always. Thanks for staying up late with us tonight.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Tanner Kern, everyone. Covered everything. NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball. A pleasure as always.